Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to the Manggcast, and I am only doing this because I finished Metal Gear Solid, so I have time to do a Manggcast. But it seems like the rest of the video game world is too busy playing Metal Gear to announce any actual news. It's a light week for video game news, lighter than probably normal. I only have 3 things to talk about in the video game world, and only one of them is really kind of major. So let's just do it. We'll see how long we go. First thing is in relation to Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma is a game that came out for Xbox 360 and PS3 back in 2012. I Let's Played it, in fact. And I thought it was alright. I wasn't blown away by it. I thought it had a lot of potential, and I don't know, some parts were kind of wonky, but it was alright. It was alright. Then, let's see, that was probably 2013. Yes, 2013, they came out with kind of an expansion, but also kind of a standalone as well, called Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. And people said this improved a lot of things, and it was all good, blah, 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 but I never got around to playing it. Now, Capcom has announced that Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is coming to PC in January. And so it's going to include all the original content, all the Dark Arisen content, but also full Steam support, in addition to higher resolution visuals and improved fidelity. I don't know what that means, but alright. So, I think that's pretty good news. I will probably pick it up again in January and try it out with Dark Arisen on PC, make it all run pretty well. Maybe even mods? I don't know. Could be. So that's good. Dragon's Dogma is still being cared about. There is also supposedly Dragon's Dogma Online coming out at some point. Which it came out in Japan very recently. I haven't heard how that is. So I don't know if that will ever come out in America. We'll see. I don't know if there will ever be a Dragon's Dogma 2, but the fact that they're bringing it to PC now, that's alright, but I guess they also brought Zombie U to PC, so who's to say, really? Alright, Dark Souls. I like talking about Dark Souls. And, of course, Twitch is playing Dark Souls. Yes, they are. I didn't talk about this last week because basically nobody was reporting on it. There wasn't really anything crazy to talk about, but there is something to talk about this week, and that is the fact that they have beaten Ornstein and Smough, who, if you have played Dark Souls, or if you've seen anything about Dark Souls, you probably know that Ornstein and Smough was pretty much, I would say, the hardest part of the game. More or less, yeah. Because it's the only real boss in the game where there's 2 aggressive opponents trying to kill you viciously. And so it is pretty crazy then that Twitch has now beaten Ornstein and Smough. Again, remember that they are doing the delayed thing where they pause the game after every action so people can input votes for the next command. So it's not like, I mean, it's cheating, sure, but they would have never gotten out of the asylum. I don't think they would have ever gotten out of the asylum without it. So, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, they cheated, they got this far. But I think what's more impressive is the fact that people are actually willing to sit here and do this. They've been going for 29 days and 21 hours, 33 minutes, as I am talking about this. They've died 734 times. And there are 620 people in here. That's crazy. People are still just... Yes, it's still going. It's still a thing. People are involved in this. It's crazy. because it pauses after every action. It pauses for like 15 seconds at least. So yeah, it's nuts. I think that's crazy. But I don't think there's any doubt that they'll probably go through all the way and finish the game. They're in the catacombs right now, so I don't know if they're doing DLC or not, but yeah, there's still a bit to go. If no DLC, maybe like 45 days or something, maybe they'll beat it. We'll see. But yeah, crazy stuff. Alright, finally then, the big thing that I want to talk about is from the Pokemon Company. Yes, and normally I do not discuss anything related to Pokemon because I'm not a huge fan anymore. I was when I was younger, but not anymore. But this is kind of just relevant to the world. And they announced a new game called Pokemon Go. Very cliche name, but what it is, well, it's there was a game, an augmented reality game that was created by a company called Niantic, and it was originally, I mean, I think most people kind of advertised it as Google's game. Like, this was Google's game. Now, it was not developed by Google, but originally it was tied to Google, and Google was kind of marketing it and things like that. And that's how I found out about it, because you had to sign up for it through Google and blah blah blah. So what it was very exclusive. And that was kind of the reason that I wanted to get into it, was because it was this exclusive Google augmented reality game, and I was like, how can I not be involved in this? And so you had to kind of, you had to be like invited or something like that. It was pretty exclusive, but I got into it. And so what happened was you had an app on your phone, and you kind of went around in real life. You went around to areas, and you were trying to find portals. And these portals were just shown on your phone. It wasn't like, I think augmented reality might be overselling it a little bit, because from what I remember, like you didn't like raise your phone and like use the camera to actually see anything. Not that I remember. You just kind of saw it on like a map display on your phone. You're like, oh, there's a portal, like, you know, a block that way. And then you went to where the portal was in real life. You had to walk there, and then you can hack the portal to like close it, and you'd get like bonuses and blah blah blah. And it was called Ingress, was what the game was called. And so I tried it out for like, I don't know. I tried it out for like a day. The problem was I don't go anywhere. I don't go anywhere. I think the only time I tried it, I remember, was we were going to buy like a Christmas tree or something like that. And so I was like, oh, I got this Ingress thing. Let me see. And there's just like, you go to this one spot and there's like nothing for like 4 miles or something like that. It's like, well, oh well. But it was an interesting concept, I guess. But there's a reason you never hear about it. And one, I think, was that it was too exclusive. Like, it's never been mentioned. Like, nobody ever talks about Ingress, really. Like, the only time I ever hear about it is because for some reason, I'm subscribed to, like, the email listing. And I never, like, opted out. So I just get regular updates from Niantic about Ingress. It's like, I don't care. I don't care anymore. But it's like, I never hear about it on any website or anything like that. I never hear people talking about it, Reddit or anything like that. Nothing. Nobody cares about Ingress. So, I don't think there are that many people involved in it. Secondly, I don't think the theme of the game appeals to a mass market. It's very kind of like there is a strong kind of story linked to the game, and like if you're subscribed to the email thing, they'll give you like regular updates, like in universe. Like everything is in universe, so they'll send you like actual. It's not just like, oh, we have blah 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 this time and blah blah blah, and here you can do this. It's like it's all in universe from like it's written from the perspective of scientists working for this secretive company, and it's all it was all well done, I suppose. But yeah, it never really clicked with me. On Wikipedia, they're saying that in 2015, they had 7 million players. I don't know where they're getting these numbers. I don't know if I'm still counted as a player because I signed up for it. I don't know. But anyways, this may be the first time you're ever hearing about this. Maybe you've heard of it before. But yeah, it was called Ingress. So what does that have to do with Pokemon Go? Well, Pokemon Go is being developed by Niantic. Same company. And it's basically Ingress. That's pretty much what it is. This is Ingress, but instead of hacking portals, you're catching Pokemon. Instantly, you've expanded your target market exponentially. And so apparently, you are going to be using your phone. So you're going to be, much like what I've described with Ingress, you're going to be using your phone like that. But they're also going to be selling a watch-like peripheral. This was mostly developed by Nintendo. This is called Pokemon Go Plus. So I don't think you need this to play Pokemon Go, but I imagine every kid under the age of 12 is probably going to own this thing. And this is going to pair with your phone, and it's going to have like a rumble and a flashing feature when you are near a Pokemon, so that you don't have to kind of just keep staring at your phone. You can just wait for this thing to rumble. It's like, oh shit, there's a Pokemon nearby. And this will apparently let you actually, I don't know, it's probably going to have like a gyroscope in it or something like that, because it's going to let you like do a throwing animation to actually throw like a Pokeball. Or so, they say. So yeah, it's coming out for Android and iOS, Pokemon Go, sometime next year. And this shit is probably gonna blow up. Pokemon is fairly large. I mean, not as big as it used to be. I mean, let's be honest. But a lot of kids, I think, still like the idea of Pokemon, and it kind of needed something to revitalize it. Just coming out with, Pokemon X and Y, or whatever the hell they call them nowadays, and just like, okay, here's another RPG, go ahead. Yeah, eventually that's going to get old. They're doing other things with Pokemon. They're doing, like, the tournament game or whatever like that, but this is probably going to be pretty big. Unfortunately, it might be a bit before its time. Because the trailer for it, the trailer that they show for this Pokemon Go, involves people actually, like, seeing digital Pokemon and throwing digital Pokeballs at them. This is not what it's going to be like. This is what it would be like if we had augmented reality devices that we wore, like Google Glass or the HoloLens, or things like that we could actually augment our vision with to implant augmented reality objects into the real world. Then yes, it would be like that. Unfortunately, this is just going to be on your phone. So I don't really know the importance of having something where you pretend you're throwing a Pokeball when you're going to look like a dumbass. You're going to look like a dumbass. Now, if you're 12 or 10, who cares? But I think it might be a bit before its time. It could grow into something like what their trailer is trying to show. Where right now, I feel like it's going to be a lot like just Ingress. It's going to appeal to a lot more people than Ingress because of the theme. But I think I don't know. We'll have to see. We don't know a lot of info about it. We'll have to see what Niantic is kind of doing to differ this from Ingress. As it is, I don't think I would play it much because it's the same thing. I don't go anywhere. And there's really there's no entertainment value for it to me. I mean, it will appeal to a lot more people, again, because of the theme. And there are people that do really get into Ingress and like that whole discovering things. And, like, there are some portals in Ingress that are just, like, very remote. And so you see people that just go out into the middle of nowhere. They, like, make treks out there just to be the one person that, you know, close this portal or whatever. So, yeah, I can see people doing things like that with Pokemon Go. It'll probably be pretty big. But it's just kind of a sad reminder that our reach exceeds our grasp, I guess is what you might say. Like, we want to get to that point of augmented reality and all the digital in the real world and blah, 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 but we're not quite there yet. So this is like our substitute for the time being. So yeah, we'll see how that kind of develops and where that goes. Alrighty then. Moving on to movies. Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers Creepers was a movie that came out in 2001. It's a horror film, and it starred Justin Long. Yeah, that's how you know it's in 2001. And it was basically about a guy and his sister, and they were traveling just in the countryside. And suddenly they get encountered by, they have an encounter with this winged creature, basically. It's the creeper. And so it's just kind of a horror movie. I mean, it was kind of weird because of the creeper. It was somewhat Lovecraftian almost, vaguely. But yeah, it was just kind of a horror movie, and they didn't really do much with the, like, they didn't kill the creeper or anything like that. And I saw this movie a while back. The only thing I really remember about it was that the thing could fly and that it's used the song Jeepers Creepers in it. And I think that like, somebody, like, they heard the song and they're like, oh, Jeepers Creepers. What if we had a, like, there's a line, a couple lines in the song. I'll read it. I'll read it to you. So it's Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those eyes? And it's like, huh, that's kind of weird. And so the movie kind of plays on that this creeper, like, steals people's eyes and things like that. And it's kind of effed up. It's also kind of effed up because the director of Jeepers Creepers was convicted of child molestation and things like that. So that's kind of weird. That was followed by a sequel a couple years later called Jeepers Creepers 2. I never saw this movie, I'm going to be real honest. I didn't have a whole lot of interest in it. I might watch it at some point. But yeah. What's weird is it was directed by the same guy. I mean, his conviction and all that was like years before that, but it's just kind of weird that this guy's just like, all right, I'm gonna keep directing these horror movies about teenagers just getting murdered. I don't know, man. It's just kind of weird. And so, finally now we have Jeepers Creepers 3 being announced. Directed by the same guy, of course. And, yeah, it's going to be more of the same. What really bothers me here is that they're planning to go into the origins of the creature. And it's kind of like, I'm kind of conflicted on it. On the one hand, for horror movies, or really any movie, where it's kind of, there's a big sense of mystery. I mean, we're talking about horror movies specifically, I guess, where there's a sense of mystery about what is going on, what's happening to the characters, where did this situation or creature come from, blah, blah, blah. On the one hand, if you just keep making movies in the series without answering questions, you just get a strong sense of repetition. And it's just like, okay, I mean, it's the same movie every damn time. On the other hand, if you reveal the origins of the situation or the creature or blah, 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 you take a lot of the mystique out of the films. And worst case, and what tends to happen, is you tend to affect the original film or films. You tend to degrade them. There are two big situations where this happened majorly. One is the Cube series, which you all know about, I hope, because I did a series of videos talking about Cube. And, yeah. Cube Zero just destroyed everything. And so it's best to just, well, one, not ever watch that movie, but if you do, just block it out entirely, because it's just, no. The other movie that did this was Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. I don't really want to spoil that because I don't like to spoil too many movies. I don't think anybody really cares about spoilers from The Marked Ones. But basically, the end of that movie revealed kind of a twist, I guess. And the twist directly affected the perception of the events of the first movie. So it directly altered, basically, the first movie. Like, I don't really have a good analogy for how it did. But imagine you see an original, like, imagine they made another sequel to The Matrix, and it's revealed that, like, somebody went back in time and, like, injected Neo with nanites that gave him the One powers or some shit like that. Like, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And it's just like, you have committed pretty much the gravest offense that a sequel can ever commit. Like, where you degrade the original film. That's not good. So I feel like when movies dive into origins, that can happen. But again, if you just keep doing the same, you know, you just kind of get burnt out and it's just shit. So what do? Well, you don't make unnecessary sequels, which is what this is. Unfortunately, that will never happen because money. So yeah, I mean, I more wanted to talk about this just because I didn't like that they were talking about origins for a movie that is somewhat Lovecraftian in concept. I mean, Lovecraft never was like, I'm gonna write a movie, The Origins of Cthulhu. Let's go. That's kind of more of a Derleth thing. Yeah, so that just kind of bothers me. All right. The Purge 3, which I've talked about a little bit, will apparently feature an ensemble cast. And I think that's kind of a misnomer. Because it's a strange article. They're like, yeah, it's gonna have an ensemble cast. And then they list off a bunch of actors. I think I've only heard of one of these people. It'll feature Betty Gabriel, Edwin Hodge, Kyle Secor, J.J. Soria, Maketi Williamson, and Elizabeth Mitchell. If you're like me, you've probably only heard of Elizabeth Mitchell. Maybe not even that. But I liked the fact that they are including a great deal of people in this. I mean, that's kind of what you want in a horror movie. Most of the time, You want just a big cast, because that's more bodies, is generally how I look at it. There are horror movies that have a very small cast that are good, or horror-ish movies. I don't want to mention one because it might be a movie recommendation for me very soon. But yeah, more bodies, and I'm hoping... Again, what I would like to see from The Purge 3 is just more... a broader scale. This is a series where I don't want them to talk about the origins or anything. Like, I don't really want to see, like, the first Purge or anything like that. That's unnecessary. You have so much untapped ground. So, yeah, more actors. Maybe they'll broaden it out, expand it, things like that. Could be good. King Kong and Godzilla. This is a duo that has been around for quite some time. I don't really have a great deal of knowledge of King Kong or Godzilla, to be honest. So I'm kind of just going off of basic research. But apparently there was a King Kong versus Godzilla movie in 1962. Long, long ago. So they have fought. But now they are apparently wanting to do a modern crossover between the two. So King Kong is planning on being featured in an upcoming movie called Skull Island. Or Kong Skull Island, I guess. And Godzilla, of course, had the recent Godzilla movie, and they are planning a sequel to that as well. So they could be featured then in another film, both of them. I don't know if it would actually be called King Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus King Kong. Kong Skull Island is having kind of a lot of issues with their casting and their crew, and people don't even know when that movie is coming out, and you know, it's having issues. Godzilla 2, I don't think we really know a whole lot about, but that's kind of inevitable. That's going to happen. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this, because it's kind of like Freddy versus Jason. You know, it's like you can't really have... Or it's kind of like Batman versus Superman. It's like you can't have the movie... It's closer to Batman versus Superman than Freddy versus Jason. You can't really have these two just, like, fight for the whole movie and then one wins. Like, that's not... You can't do that. Like, not even Freddy versus Jason had one win. Even though it would be Freddy. You have to introduce, like, a villain. Like, that's just kind of how it... This is how the formula works. I think the real issue here is... kind of licensing and profits and percentages and things like that, because of, you know, Universal and Legendary and Warner Brothers, and like all these companies involved with all sorts of things, and it's hard to say. I can imagine this movie being made, but I think it's a long way off. So, I'm not really that hyped about it, because the only Godzilla movie that I've really ever been interested in was the American 1997 one. And I like King Kong, the recent one with, you know, directed by Peter Jackson, because that was just kind of an incredible film. But I've never really been like, oh, I want to go back and watch old King Kong movies. So I don't know. We'll see. Moving on to something I am very interested in, though, and that's Ready Player One, which is an incredible book, and hopefully will be an incredible movie. And they have announced that they have picked their female lead, and they decided upon Olivia Cooke, who has starred in a number of recent films, but I'll admit that I have not seen a single one of them, including Ouija, That's right. She starred in Ouija, and I have not seen it, which is crazy. I will try to rectify that very soon. I didn't get to see it in theaters because I could not find a single soul alive that would go see the Ouija movie, even though it made $100 million on a $5 million budget, and it is getting a sequel. But anyways, yes. So Olivia Cooke, she's been in a number of movies. She's kind of a rising star. So okay, Ready Player One, and the role that she will be playing is Artemis. Except the E is a 3 because, computers. And so in the book, I think I've already kind of described it, but again, it's basically the real world is shit and it's terrible, so everybody just lives in the virtual world called Oasis. And the main character is Wade Watts, also known as Parzival. And he has a crush on this kind of e-celebrity named Artemis, who is a blogger and a female and blah, 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 blah. And he kind of has this major crush on her. And at some point during the story, they meet up in the digital world, and he, of course, just falls in love with her even more, and they kind of have this on and off relationship-ish. And the thing is, though, that people in Oasis, in the digital world, kind of come up with their own, they have their own kind of avatar. And so people, generally everyone is more attractive than they are in real life, including Wade and Artemis. And yeah, I know it's a female character named Artemis. It hurts me a little bit, because I generally like to think as just Artemis is a male name, even though it's not at all. But anyways, so it's kind of interesting then, because Artemis in the digital world and her real life person named Samantha Cook, interestingly enough, they look quite a bit different. I don't really want to spoil it because I think everyone should read the book, but they do look different. So it's interesting on then what Olivia Cooke will portray. Probably she'll just appear as the digital version, maybe with some sort of, CG or makeup or something like that for the real version. But yeah, so that's good. I like that this is really moving along now, and it makes sense it's moving along because it's a fantastic book, and it's well timed for the current tech climate that we're living in right now. So yeah, again, Ready Player One, tentatively December 15, 2017. At this pace, yeah, I could see it happening. So that's good news. Guillermo Del Toro teased his next project, and he described it as WALL-E meets Splash. So that's really interesting. WALL-E, I don't think needs much of an introduction. It was a Pixar movie about the little robot who was stuck cleaning up junk on Earth for all eternity, and then he gets into some mishaps and blah, 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 and blah, and it was very emotional, somewhat, I don't know, perhaps a bit political, but it was a very popular Pixar movie. Okay. Splash. Oh man, that's such a weird reference because not many people I don't think remember this movie. But Splash came out in 1984. It was basically a rom-com directed by Ron Howard, starring Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah. And Tom Hanks just plays a regular guy, but Daryl Hannah plays basically like Ariel from The Little Mermaid. kind of. She plays like a weird, beautiful woman, but it's revealed that she's actually a mermaid. Yes. Yes. So it's a rom-com about a guy that falls in love with a mermaid. So Guillermo Del Toro is teasing his next project as Wall-E meets Splash. Wow. Like I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even know how to combine those two ever. Like what does that mean? But dude, Guillermo Del Toro, trust in the Del Toro. He will lead you. He will lead you to wonderful, wonderful places. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to anything Guillermo Del Toro does. So yes. Wall-E meets Splash. I'm on board. Animorphs. Okay, some people might need to know a little bit about this. Animorphs is getting its own movie. And Animorphs was a series of books written by K.A. Applegate. And it's basically about these characters, these people, these teenagers, pretty much, who have the ability to turn into animals. And so you might know of this series as just the one that has the covers where it's like it shows a kid and then it shows like his like weird transformation into an animal. And so yeah, they're called Animorphs, and they like it's kind of weird. You might also remember this from the TV series. There was a live-action TV series from Nickelodeon based on the books, and it actually starred Shawn Ashmore, Iceman, and it was kind of weird because they went up against like this alien race that had used like earwigs or something like that went in through your ear and merged with your brain. And as a kid, I was like, ugh, Jesus Christ. And so it was. I mean, the book series went on for a little while, and the TV series was somewhat of a success. It only had 2 seasons, so Animorphs was just kind of a thing of the time. It was like a lot of other young adult shows, series, blah, blah, blah. But it kind of... I'm surprised that it's taken this long to even mention an Animorphs movie, because I thought it was somewhat popular. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but my brother was... like, he owned every single book and blah, blah, blah. There was like 50 books or something like that. It was pretty crazy. So, yeah, it's just kind of the time for young adult movies. That's just what kind of happens now. Now, Animorphs aren't really dystopian, which is very popular right now. They're a bit more towards the fantasy side of things, obviously. But that's got its own popularity as well. Animorphs is not really like Harry Potter or anything like that. But yeah, it's young adultish, but I think it's also kind of effed up, like I mentioned. There's earwigs that go in through people's ears and merge with their brains. There's aliens. It's kind of weird and crazy. But it is very young adult. It's kind of like Power Rangers. You know, you have these young teenagers that suddenly gain these powers and kind of, you know, deal with this impending doom that only they can deal with. So, yeah. I believe, yeah, Universal is in charge of this one. They have the plans in motion, apparently, and Universal is having a good time right now. So they will probably put a good effort into making the Animorphs movie. So if you're a fan of the Animorphs, if you've been a fan, this is probably pretty good news to finally see it at the big screen. If you're not a fan or have never heard of it, yeah, we'll see how they deal with it. I think they're going to have to change some things to kind of bring it to a wide, big audience. But yeah, it was fairly popular back in the day. Alright, final thing then. This is the weird news of the day, I guess, but it's also really the depressing news of the day. And it involves Ronda Rousey. And it involves Ronda Rousey planning to star in the reboot of Roadhouse. Yeah. So Roadhouse, which came out in 1989, starred Patrick Swayze. And I only saw this movie for the first time a few years back, but it was awesome. I'm a big fan of Roadhouse. Patrick Swayze laid down the law as the best bouncer that could ever be. And shit went down. He had some great one-lines. It's really just a classic film. And so now they want to reboot it, which is already bad enough. I mean, let's be honest, because Roadhouse still holds up. It absolutely does. Like, I will definitely tell you if a movie does not hold up, seeing it the first time nowadays. Like, personally, this may hurt some people, but the original Highlander, I don't think holds up that well. Because I saw that for the first time a little while back. I don't think that holds up that well. But Roadhouse definitely holds up. So there's not a big reason to reboot this, remake it, whatever. But to reboot it, not only, like, the gender swap, okay, like, I don't have a big problem with that. But you do a gender swap and you cast Ronda Rousey. Like, people, I think, want to make her the female Rock. I think that's what they want to do. That seems absolutely what they want. They want her to be the female version of The Rock. And there's an issue with that because, in my opinion, she has none of the charm The Rock possesses. I think I've already talked about this. And it's like, she's just kind of going into Hollywood based on being a female who can kick ass. And the issue here is that we don't really need people that can actually kick ass in movies. Like, I'm pretty sure I know for a fact that Patrick Swayze is not an absolute. He wasn't like a combat god or anything like that. He was an actor and a dancer and a damn good one. But when you're watching Roadhouse, you believe that he could kick ass because that's Hollywood. That's how movies are made. So I don't need somebody that can actually kick ass. I need somebody that can actually act. I don't know if Ronda Rousey is that person. So it's just, I don't know. I don't know what they're really going for. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Ronda Rousey. I'm sorry. I mean, I respect her presence and her talent in the world of mixed martial arts. I mean, yeah, she can kick some ass. Probably kick my ass. Kick many asses. But I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of people that have, martial artists that went into Hollywood and did fine for themselves. Jet Li, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, couple of foreign martial artists that are doing all right for themselves, but nothing major. I mean, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Bruce Lee, these are kind of the big names. But they had this kind of, charm to each of their performances that just kind of made it work. I have yet to see anything from Ronda Rousey that's like, oh man, I would love to watch a movie starring Ronda Rousey. So, I don't know. And I don't know if Roadhouse is the movie to do it, because you're already pissing off a lot of people just by remaking Roadhouse. But, yeah, come on. What are you doing? What are you doing? Because Roadhouse isn't really a movie that much about fighting. Like, why doesn't she make a movie where she just kicks a lot of ass? You know, something like The Raid or Ong Bak, or, you know, something like where, you know, a martial arts movie or something like that. But no, Roadhouse. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm not happy about it. Like, but Gina Carano, you remember Gina Carano? She tried getting into movies. She was in Furious 6, I want to say, and she did all right in there. And then she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a real actress. I'm gonna do a lot of movies." And so she made a movie called Haywire, where she starred as like an assassin. And that movie, nobody ever talks about it because it's just utterly forgettable. And that's kind of what it's like. It's like everyone wants to be The Rock, but only The Rock can be The Rock. That's what it comes down to. Alright, so then final thing is Mangg's movie recommendation of the week. And I don't want to just recommend horror movies every week. So we're going to branch off back into thriller territory. And one of my other favorite genres is science fiction. And so this movie is definitely, easily in my top 3 science fiction movies. And that is Sunshine. Sunshine came out in 2007. It's a British movie directed by Danny Boyle, but it stars a very interesting cast because they wanted to do kind of like a very international cast to kind of, you know, make it seem more realistic, because the plot is that the sun is basically dying. They're going into like this solar winter, and Earth is at the, you know, it's gonna go extinct because the sun is dying, and so humanity bands together to send a crew into space to kind of kickstart the sun. And so it stars Cillian Murphy as kind of the lead role, the brilliant scientist who makes the big bomb that'll kickstart everything. And it has Chris Evans, Rose Byrne, Michelle Yeoh, Cliff Curtis, Hiroyuki Sanada, and other actors as well. And like, this movie, I don't think any other movie has or probably ever will display the sun for all of its gross incandescence than this movie. Like, it's just gorgeous. It's an incredible, like, the effects of this movie, the way that it's shown, it all comes together, just so good. The plot of the movie, most of it is very interesting because it's deeper than your average just science fiction movie. There's discussions involved, and they kind of touch on different things throughout the film. The final part of the movie gets kind of weird. I'll admit to that. I think the end of the final section of the movie could have been different to make it better. But overall, very, very good science fiction movie. If you have any interest in space or science or the sun or anything like that, definitely check it out. I don't know if it's the most accurate of science fiction movies, but most of them are not. I mean, not everything can be Interstellar, I guess. But yeah, definitely check it out, Sunshine. Alright, so that's going to wrap up this week's Manggcast for September 12th, 2015. So hopefully that now that, you know, the Metal Gear Solid hype is slowly starting to fade away, maybe, the video game companies will be like, oh shit, yeah, we still have to do things. Let's mention stuff. We'll see. The only people that really announced anything were the Japanese people. So, yeah. Alright, so my name is Mangg. This has been the Manggcast. And I'll see you fine folks next week.